What if the fears you feel today were never truly yours to begin with? What if a simple experiment could plant fear inside a human mind? And what if that experiment was done on a baby? More than a century ago, a controversial psychological study tried to answer a disturbing question. Are humans born with fear? Or can fear be created? What the scientists discovered would become one of the most disturbing experiments in psychology. Because by the end of it, a completely fearless child had learned to fear something that had never scared him before. And the worst part, no one knows how long that fear stayed with him. In 1920, a psychologist named John B. Watson wanted to prove a radical idea. Watson believed that human emotions were not simply born inside us. He believed emotions could be taught. In other words, fear might not be something we are born with. It might be something we learn. To test this theory, Watson and his colleague chose an unusual participant. A 9-month-old baby who later became known as Little Albert. At the start of the experiment, Albert behaved like any normal infant. He was curious, playful, and surprisingly fearless. The researchers placed different objects in front of him. A white rat, a rabbit, a dog, even strange masks. Albert touched them, played with them, and showed absolutely no fear. The white rat in particular fascinated him. He reached for it, smiled at it, and happily played with it. To the researchers, this was the perfect starting point. Because if Albert wasn't afraid now, they could try to make him afraid later. The next phase of the experiment changed everything. Once again, the white rat was placed in front of Albert. He reached out to touch it just like before. But this time, the moment his hand touched the rat, something terrifying happened. Behind Albert, one of the researchers slammed a metal bar with a hammer. The loud metallic noise exploded through the room. Albert instantly jumped in shock. Then he burst into tears. For a baby, the sound was overwhelming. But the researchers didn't stop there. They repeated the process again and again. Every time Albert touched the rat, the same loud noise followed. Rat. Bang. Crying. Rat. Bang. Crying. Slowly, something began to change inside Albert's mind. After several repetitions, the researchers tried something different. They placed the rat in front of Albert again. But this time, there was no noise. No hammer. No metal bar. Just the rat. The moment Albert saw it, his face changed. His eyes widened. And then he started crying. The fear had taken hold. The rat itself had become frightening, even without the loud noise. But the experiment revealed something even more unsettling. Albert didn't just fear the rat anymore. He started fearing anything that looked similar. A white rabbit made him cry. A small dog frightened him. Even a fluffy white coat caused panic. The fear had spread. Albert's brain had learned a powerful association. White furry object equals danger. And now, that fear existed all on its own, and it quickly became one of the most controversial experiments in psychological history. Because while the researchers successfully created fear, they never removed it. Today, ethical guidelines in science would never allow such an experiment. Modern researchers must protect participants from psychological harm. But in 1920, those protections barely existed. The experiment ended. But Albert's fear may not have. For decades, researchers tried to discover what happened to the child later in life. But the truth remains uncertain. Some historians believe Albert lived a normal life. Others suspect the experiment may have affected him much longer. No one can say for sure. What we do know is that the experiment changed psychology forever. It showed that fear can be learned. Not just through dangerous experiences, but through simple associations. Your brain links events together. A sound with a moment. A memory with an emotion. And once those connections are formed, they can stay with you for years. Sometimes even for life. But the discovery also opened the door to something important. If fear can be learned, it can also be unlearned. Modern therapies now help people overcome phobias using the same principle. Slowly breaking the associations that once created fear. In a strange way, the disturbing experiment helped scientists understand the human mind more deeply. But the story of little Albert still leaves us with one haunting question. How many of our fears were actually taught to us? One baby. One rat. One loud sound. And one experiment that proved fear could be created. The human mind is far more fragile and mysterious than we often realize. And sometimes the scariest discoveries come from the smallest experiments. If you enjoy mysterious stories about psychology, science, and the hidden secrets of the human mind, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because every week we explore strange experiments, unsolved mysteries, and stories that make you question what you thought you knew. And the next story might make you see your own mind in a completely different way.